Hello plant people, how are you guys doing today? If you're new around here, my name is Ashley and I like to take science and apply it to all things plants. In today's video, we're talking about fall application of fertilizer. So this can include synthetic, it can also include organic. We're going to go over what soil types or forms of flower beds you would want to add this to, and which ones you may choose not to add it to, and kind of the science behind why. Now, with that being said, I did do a video on how to actually remove the crop from that year, or how, if you should leave it, and kind of the particulars of that in a separate video. So either stay tuned for that or go check that one out now if it's already up. I'm not really sure yet how I'm going to do my fall close down videos in what order. Today, let's talk about applying fall fertilizer. So this is not sponsored, but this is a really cool Canadian company. I'm not sure if they serve the US at all, but it's called Do, and they do customized lawn fertilizer specific to soil testing, your environment, what kind of soil issues you have, and they just sent me my subscription for fall application. So I've used this year. I actually really like this company. Again, not sponsored by any means. I just genuinely enjoy it. And one of the things they sent was fall fertilizer. And I thought, you know what? It's so cool that the grass community does this, but what about the garden community? I feel like we don't talk about fall fertilizer very often and whether or not it should be applied. So this would technically work on your lawn, or with perennials or trees or anywhere in your soil. This Do fertilizer bag would work in that case. But let's talk about why this lawn company even has fall fertilizer, spring fertilizer, and just the differences in that. So when it comes to fall fertilizer, our main purpose is actually the roots. So our plants put a lot of effort into that upper biomass, and this is particularly true for perennials, trees, shrubs, and our lawns. And they don't really focus much on the roots. And I did a video on how trees really don't go dormant in the fall and winter. They may lose their upper foliage, but there's a lot of action happening underground, and this is particularly true if you do not get a total freezing of your actual soil, or it's true for the soil below the frost line. So in Saskatchewan, I think it's 9 or 10 feet in depth. So anything below that, those roots are still actively growing because they have the water and the nutrients. So what a lot of perennial plants are doing in the fall and the winter is they're building up that root mass to then supply that upper biomass with a ton of growth. And this is also true for houseplants. When our houseplants go dormant and they seem like they're not growing any longer, it's actually because they're refocusing the energy into the roots and not so much into the shoots. And that's why applying fall fertilizer is incredibly important to help support the root biomass. The more root biomass we have, the more flowers and fruits and that sort of thing we end up with. And that's, you know, true if it's a raspberry bush or a blackberry bush or an apple tree, all the way to just a decorative tree or lawn or anything of that matter. So when we're looking for our fall fertilizer, we just kind of want to do a general all-purpose, equal parts of NP and K. You don't want to just do straight nitrogen. You do want to have it relatively balanced. And when I say balanced, I don't necessarily mean 14, 14, 14, but just an all-encompassing. It has all three of the main nutrients in it, and it's not focusing in on any one in specific. This can be applied from now until the actual ground is frozen. Once the ground is frozen, you can't actually apply a fall fertilizer, because what ends up happening is it will just run off with any water or snow melt or dew that kind of formulates. So if it can't penetrate the soil surface because that soil surface is frozen, you're kind of past that date where you can do that. Now, luckily in Saskatchewan, our last frost date is looking like it's going to be way longer, way farther in the future than it naturally would be. We're end of September or mid-September right now, and it is literally going to be like 30 degrees Celsius this year, this week, which is absolutely insane. I'm not complaining because I might actually get a fall/late winter harvest this year, which I'm actually pretty excited for. So the general application for this could be incorporating, or could be broadcasting or top dressing in the case of vermicompost, compost, or composted manure. So once we put that on the soil surface, it will eventually leach down and move into that soil profile. Now, when we're looking at the types of soils or the types of gardens we want to add a fall fertilizer to. It's going to be perennial beds, trees and shrubs, or our lawns. We can do a split application of nutrients in the fall for just bare soil raised beds or in-ground raised beds. The only thing is that it's not really supplying any nutrients to that plant. The only purpose for really a fall application is for two reasons. If you're using a synthetic, it's just to cut down on your workload in the spring of applying that fertilizer before you go to seed or transplant those plants in the garden. The second reason would be if you have manure or compost that's not yet fully composted and you want to compost it quickly. So if you are just wanting to do straight grass clippings, straight leaves, or just your old mulch, technically incorporating that, and then you would need to use tillage or a double dig method for this, but incorporating that into the soil can expedite the composition process, and which ultimately means you won't end up with nitrogen tie-up that you typically would have if you were to apply that uncomposted compost material in the spring. So for those of you that have a city compost program, such as what we have here in Saskatoon, I do find that their compost is not yet cured or fully composted. So that would be a good compost candidate to add to our soil, incorporate it, or you could just top dress it and give it a shot, and hopefully that will metabolize and decompose that a little bit quicker. So that would be the method that you would use if you didn't have anything planted in that area that you needed to then fertilize. But if you have perennial shrubs and trees, grass, you just want to just broadcast it on that soil surface. You can use a stake if you wanted to, but you want to get that into the ground right now or sooner rather than later. And you're going to water as often as you can until again that ground freezes, and then ultimately it's game over for that. But we want to try to force as much of that nutrients down into the profile so we don't lose it through volatilization as well as just through freezing of the regular decomp that happens that will then release those nutrients to that plant. So after that's done, the plant is going to actually take the time again to build up those roots and shoots. And if you're having issues with odd formed apples or nutrient deficiencies in your apples or your berry bushes and that sort of thing, a fall application is definitely something you want to look at. So besides properly clearing the debris off, you may want to consider doing this. If you are just doing raised beds, you may not want to consider doing this because it would be best just to apply it in the spring ultimately, because you will end up with some losses just naturally because there is nothing to uptake that nutrients. But if you have trees and grass and that sort of thing, a fall application is definitely something you want to do, even in our cold climates here in Canada and the northern United States. And I know we have lots of Europeans on this channel as well, so keep that in mind. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!